is cooking.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to your first installment of Mr. Shuck's Flipped ELA. Today we'll be taking some notes for our first reading selection from the textbook, which is entitled Homesick. The author is Jean Fritz, and it begins on page 104 in your textbook. This reading selection will be our whole group instruction. You will need the following materials to complete this flipped lesson. You will need your Talking to the Text organizer or study guide, which you should have been given during school. You will need your textbook, Elements of Literature, and you will also need your journal. We're going to begin today with a journal activity for Homesick. I need you to read the Make the Connection section on page 104 of your textbook. Follow along with this section while I read it out loud. Do you speak my language? If you lived in France or Spain or Korea, people might ask you if you could speak their language. Parlez-vous français? Habla español. Hanguk mar el hal su its nika. Suppose you had to live for a time in another country, far away from the place you call home. What would you miss? How could living far away help you find out who you are and what you like about your own country? We're going to respond to those brief questions in our journals. You need to write a 1-paragraph minimum response. Remember that you can pause the video at any time, so you should be pausing now to write your response. Now that you have your paragraph written in, we would also like to identify some pros and cons about living in a foreign land or a different culture. Write your list in your journal. Again, you should pause and write at this time. Now that we have our journal activity taken care of for this reading selection, we're going to add some cool words to the cool word section of our Talking to the Text organizer. Remember that cool words are words that we should know. They are general vocabulary words for the story, and as we make our way through the reading selection, we can add any number of cool words to this list. The first word that we need to know for this particular story is culture. Culture is the customs, arts, or social institutions of a group of people. Remember to pause, write down the word and its definition. Coolies are Chinese workers who do heavy work for little pay. And finally, the last cool word that we will be adding is junks. Junks are Chinese ships with flat bottoms and square sails. Now you need to locate the academic word section of your Talking to the Text organizer. Remember that academic words are words that are related to the study of English literature. They are your literary terms or figurative language. We will add to this list of words with every reading selection throughout the course of the year. Remember to pause the video, write down the word and its definition. Nonfiction is writing that is based on facts, real events, or real people. Fiction is literature that focuses on imaginary events and people. Biography is a type of a nonfiction text that is written about a person's life. An autobiography is a nonfiction text in which the author writes about his or her own life. A fact is something that you can prove. Mr. Shuck is over 6 feet tall. You could take a tape measure, you could measure me, and you will find out that I am over 6 feet tall. That is a fact. An opinion is a personal feeling or belief. Mr. Shuck is awesome. As much as I would like to think that this is a fact, it is a personal feeling or a belief. Therefore, it is an opinion. And the last academic word that we're going to add today is imagery. Imagery is language that appeals to the senses. So in order to understand imagery, we need to understand what the 5 senses are. Sense of sight, smell, taste, hearing, and touch. Imagery allows the reader to create mental pictures and make personal connections to a text. We will be looking for some examples of imagery when the author, Gene Fritz, describes the Yangtze River in Homesick. We now have a little bit of independent reading to work our way through. On page 104 of the textbook, I need you to read through the Elements of Literature section as well as the Reading Skills and Strategies section on page 104. After you read through that section, I will need you to turn to page 117 of the textbook and read through the Meet the Writer section, where we find out a little bit more information about Gene Fritz. Remember to pause the video in order to read through these selections. Just finished with your first flipped lesson for Mr. Shuck's Flipped ELA. Remember, subscribe to my page, like my videos, and bring all of your materials to class.
If you smell what the rock is cooking.